Hi everyone. Today we'll be walking through a lever overview specifically targeted towards hiring managers or even key stakeholders and interviewers. So let's jump on in. Alrighty, so the agenda for today, you can see here, we'll start out with some basic lever overview, right? What is lever? Why are we here today? And how to navigate lever. We will then move into specific areas that you may touch in lever on, whatever cadence you use with recruiting, right? So specifically submitting referrals, viewing candidate profiles, and our favorite of all, leaving our interview feedback. Lastly, we will round out with just some basic configuration and some support documentation for you. So starting out, what is lever? So hopefully by now, this question has already been answered by your recruiting team, but in a nutshell, right, what is lever, right? We are an applicant tracking system, so this will help track your overall recruiting efforts, making sure we can kind of see where they are all throughout the process and really, maintain those engagements all in one place. You will hear me say this quite a few times today, but, at Lever, we do strive to have what we call a single source of truth. So that is what you'll see in Lever. Now, we also have a few different pillars within our product today. So we have things like Lever Analytics, which will help you, ensure that you are meeting any of your own, goals or KPIs and ultimately work smarter, not harder, right? So you'll be able to kind of gauge your recruiting efforts with those reporting details. Lever was also built to be a CRM at its core, so candidate relationship management tool. So kind of thinking about, the Salesforce for recruiting, right? So that would be Lever Nurture, right? We do have a CRM capability where you can actually re-engage candidates and build out those talent relationships. So you'll kind of see that throughout the system today. And then lastly, our Lever ecosystem, right? So this will allow you to connect to all these different softwares that you may use on a day-to-day basis pretty seamlessly, right? So again, having everything funnel into one system as that single source of truth or system of record. Alrighty, moving on to some basic navigation. So hopefully by now you have access to Lever. If you don't have access, definitely consult your talent team. They should definitely be able to provide that for you. But really basics, when you first log in, and again, it will definitely depend on the view that you have and the type of access that you have in the system. But generally speaking, for the folks on today's call, you should be able to see a menu such as this, which is at the top left-hand side of your page. You'll see a few different headers. So you'll see candidates, jobs, interviews, and reports. Candidates is going to be where your candidate profiles will live. Jobs will be job postings. Interviews are going to be your scheduled interviews, meaning if there is an interview that you are being scheduled for, it will list there, as well as where you're going to be able to make referrals. And then lastly, you have that report section, right? So again, this is where you'll be able to track your progress. For the purpose of today, in most of the engagement that you're going to have in the system, you'll most likely be spending most of your time on the candidate dashboard or this interviews tab. So you will see us focusing a lot of those sections today. Alrighty, I do like to start out, kind of defining what we call the Lever unified pipeline, simply because it is slightly different than maybe what you're used to. So in Lever, we do have what we call that unified pipeline, which is a single pipeline that all the candidates would go through across your organization. It is very flexible, so your recruiting team has been trained on the best way to set this up for your team. But in a nutshell, you're going to see 3 different pipelines. So you're going to see lead, applicant, and interview. Starting out in this lead section, this lead pipeline is going to be where all of the sourcing initiatives take place, right? So meaning anyone that your recruiting team is proactively reaching out to. So think about if they're, reaching out to them on LinkedIn, right, to try to engage them to see if they're interested in having a conversation, right? So that's going to be managed here. The next one that we have is your applicant pipeline. So this is where all the candidates will go who apply directly, or let's say were referred into the system, or even if you are partnering with an agency. Those will all funnel in as what we'll call a new applicant. And then lastly, we have that interview pipeline. So this is where your interview evaluation is going to be managed. So your recruiting team has spent a lot of time to customize this to your team's process. So what you see here might be slightly different than what you might have in your own Lever instance. Lastly, we have that candidate archive. So this is really that CRM functionality that I was talking about earlier, right? So the archive is where the candidates will go when you're no longer moving forward with them, right? So anytime we reject someone, or, you know, we close things out for other reasons, right? Maybe the company has decided to take a different direction, right? We would then place them in the archive, kind of like when you're done with your emails, you probably just archive them all, right? Very similar to this in Lever, right? So kind of, again, archive is inactive candidates, whereas lead, applicant, and interview are active in some regard, right? We are reaching out to them proactively as a lead. We're reviewing their application, or we're in some type of interview evaluation. Alrighty, this is now a zoomed out version of that candidate dashboard, right? So far we've talked about the menu section at the top left, right? We have our pipeline view here, and now we have our filter bar on the left, and then the candidate details, right? All those different candidate records. So on the left-hand side, again, you'll see this filter bar. This is really powerful to be able to drill down your view, right? Because again, if let's say you are hiring for a lot of different positions, maybe you don't want to see everyone, right? Maybe I want to filter down by a specific job posting, right? I can do that. Maybe I want to see people that were referred, right? I could filter down by the origin of referral. Tags and sources, right? Maybe I want to start tagging people with specific skill sets, right? Like Java, C++, Swift, right? Those are things that you can utilize to filter by. Source, right? Maybe I want to filter by everyone that came from, you know, LinkedIn or another source out there. As someone that is not necessarily owning the day-to-day workflows, such as a recruiter, right, someone more like a hiring manager or key interviewer, I would recommend being in the followed candidate filter, which you can change at the top here. Lever also will have the ability to search. So at the top right-hand side of your Lever dashboard, you'll see a search bar. You can kind of think of this as your Lever Google search, right? You can kind of put in any word or phrase, candidate name, etc., and hit enter, and it will bring up all sorts of results. So you will be able to utilize Boolean operators should you choose, or you can again just search for a specific person's name that you know you've interviewed. Once you hit enter though, right, if you do want to go into this advanced search, the candidates will have like a little LinkedIn icon next to their name. So if you do want to click in to see if something has changed from when, let's say, we interviewed them in the past, you can definitely do that very easily. Alrighty, moving on to our next section here. So submitting referrals. You know, referrals do tend to be the best conversions to hired. So we do recommend, you know, empowering all of your employees to submit referrals directly into the system, which is why we've tried to make it very simple and very easy for people to do that. So going back to our main menu, right, we're going to want to navigate to that interviews page. And from here, again, you know, you'll see your interviews, but what I want to focus on this slide is this blue button at the top right-hand side here, right? This will essentially allow you to refer a candidate. But what is also kind of neat about this page is that you'll actually see my referrals where you can actually track the people that you've referred, right? So you'll be able to see, if they've been archived or if they're still in the process, right? Maybe they're in final rounds or something of that nature, and maybe you have a referral program. So you definitely want to kind of be involved. You can track your referrals there. One other thing I should note is anyone in your organization can actually log directly into Lever with their email, whether you're logging in with G Suite or Office 365. Anyone can go to our website, which is hire.lever.co, log in with G Suite or Office 365 or however your team logs in, and they would actually default to only being able to see this view. So thinking about, again, employees that are not involved in the recruiting process, right? They don't really need to see much details, but we still want to empower them to submit referrals, so we can give them this lowest access role and they can essentially self-provision their own account. Alrighty, one other thing that you can do here is under this third tab called social referrals, you will be able to get a referral link, right? So you can actually create a URL to then share with, your